Today, Mexican flavor meets Japanese technique with my recipe for Birria Ramen. The first step in creating any good ramen is building a delicious broth. I'm using 4.5 pounds of oxtail as the base for a gyukotsu broth. This is a regional beef-based take on the more widely known tonkotsu broth, and I'm using oxtail for its high percentage of cartilage, fat, and connective tissue. I'm also adding about 1.5 pounds of leftover rib roast bones because I happen to have them handy. All of these things will break down as you boil them, giving your broth a thick, almost creamy texture. You'll simply need to trust me that this is better than it sounds. Before starting the actual cooking, you will want to cover your meat and bones in a stock pot by about 1 or 2 inches of water, then bring this to a boil for an hour before draining. This will cause the meat and bones to tighten up, squeezing out all of the various components you don't want flavoring or coloring your end product. Next, you'll want to take the time to clean the meat and bones of any scum or dark patches you're able to remove. Or rather, you probably won't want to, but do it anyways. Your cleaner, more appetizing broth will thank you later. Once you've cleaned your bones, it's time to prep the rest of the ingredients. There are a handful of aromatics that would traditionally go into a ramen broth, but as I was shooting for a Hispanic flavor profile, I decided to go simple. In a cast iron skillet, char 1/2 each of both a red and a white onion. Add these to your stock pot, then gather and scalp 5 heads of garlic before adding these as well, skin and all. Fill your stock pot to 4 or 5 inches above your ingredients and bring to a rolling boil. This next part might sound crazy, but you are going to leave this at a rolling boil for the next 12 hours. This process is necessary to achieve the flavor and texture we're aiming for, but keep in mind you'll probably need to top off your water several times. Once you've boiled your ingredients into unrecognizable chunks, it's time to strain your broth. I like to use a large spider strainer to remove all the larger pieces before running the broth through a cheesecloth covered fine mesh strainer, but at this point you've probably noted that I'm pretty extra. Broth done, it's time for meat. Birria is traditionally made with chuck roast or beef ribs, but for my ramen fusion I decided to elevate the dish a little bit with flank steak. Using a sous vide to slowly cook the steak will both leave it more tender and allow you to dial in exactly the level of doneness you want. This method works great for any steak, and it's a go-to for me. While our steak spends a couple of hours at the spa, we can move on to our tare. This sauce, or in this instance paste, is the main flavoring component of Japanese soups. For our birria version, I'm deseeding ancho, guajillo, and arbol chiles before toasting and rehydrating them. The goal here is to create a flavor base that we can mix with our gyukotsu broth that replicates the profile of a birria stew, but that incorporates the techniques and textures of a traditional ramen. That it's a major culinary flex to do so never even crossed my mind. Set aside your rehydrated chilies and rough chop 10 cloves of garlic along with 8 to 10 dried tomatoes. Get a skillet with a couple of tablespoons of vegetable oil nice and hot before adding your garlic and tomatoes. You'll want to stir continuously until the tomatoes have developed a deep red color while avoiding any pieces sitting and burning. Color achieved, deglaze your pan by adding 1 cup of your leftover pepper water along with 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar and 1 teaspoon of grated ginger. Stir to combine and saute just long enough for the ginger to become fragrant before removing from the heat. To the bowl of a blender, add the rehydrated peppers along with your sauteed veg. You'll then add 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a small pinch of cloves. Some dried oregano would be great here as well, but it'll require you to remember to bring it to the apartment you're filming in. Speaking of filming, something I've learned while making these videos is that it's really easy to become so focused on the big picture that you miss minor details. At this point, you may need to add more of the pepper liquid, depending on the texture you're shooting for. There's no wrong answer here, and almost certainly more salt. You want this tare to be stronger and saltier than you'd enjoy on its own, as it will be flavoring a whole bowl of broth. Assuming you took the entire 2 hours to make the tare, it's now time to remove your meat from the sous vide. It's going to look pretty unappetizing at this point, but we're not done with it yet. Allow the steak to cool a little, then cut it into 2 manageable portions before transferring to a very hot skillet to sear. Reverse searing it in this way will give you the best of both worlds, with a nearly edged pink in the center and a delicious crust on the outside. You'll want to finish your steak with a bit of sea salt before slicing thin portions against the grain and fanning them out like all the cool chefs on Instagram do it. All that's left for toppings at this point is to thinly slice some raw white onion and jalapeno, then fry some garlic in the pan recently vacated by your flank steak. Immediately before assembly of your ramen bowl, you'll want to cook your noodles. I meant to make these from scratch for the video, but did you know that it takes several hours to create sodium carbonate, a key ingredient in alkaline noodles? Now I do. At any rate, assemble as follows. Add about a tablespoon or so of tare to the bottom of your bowl. Ladle about 1.5 cups of your gyukotsu broth over the tare before thoroughly mixing the two to combine. Once your broth is changed to a deep red color, very carefully deposit your cooked noodles to the bowl. These noodles will likely stick to the container you're transferring them from, so be gentle. Add small portions of your jalapeno, crispy fried garlic, raw white onion, and a small bunch of fresh cilantro before carefully placing 3 to 4 strips of your flank steak across the center. Beautiful bowl of ramen created. Let's see how it turned out. Well, in keeping with the last few videos that I've done, I've gone ahead and made this cook into a multi-day affair. We've done some delicious broth, hopefully, some tare and all this other good stuff. So let's see how this turned out. I'm gonna try this right now. I gotta say, right off the bat, the broth is delicious. It's very spicy, very thick, 2 C's thick, really sticks to your gut. Delicious, very flavorful. Not like any ramen I've ever had before, which is unsurprising given that this is a birria ramen, but let's try the meat. It's fantastic. The sous vide really lends to a really tender, delicious meat. The crispy garlic adds a really nice bitterness to the whole dish. I'm gonna call this a success. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure that this was going to be good. Mixing these flavors with these techniques is a little bit strange, but all in all, really, really good. I would highly suggest this. This is a fantastic, really great winter dish. Maybe make this in the winter. It's a little bit hot for summer, but all in all, great. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as I enjoyed making it. It was a little bit more of an experimental recipe than I'm used to making, but if I do say so myself, I think it turned out pretty good. Now, if you enjoyed it, if you learned something, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. These things really help a new and upcoming channel, so if you take the time to do it, I'd really appreciate it. We have a lot more videos recorded, a lot more coming down the pipeline, so keep an eye out. Hopefully should be able to keep to our every Monday schedule going forward. But other than that, thanks so much for watching. Take care and happy cooking.